Man, what's going on, y'all? Another edition of Global History. Man, that Joya was bumping. Is that how you said? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know where Anna comes with this music, man, but I'm going to have to download the Joya.
Joya. Anna
Joya.
is, yep,
We got to give props to
of
some of the music,
surprises.
man. Wherever Joya
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
Your music is bomb, dude. I mean, I ain't never heard it like that, you know. We got a little ranchero down here, some cumbia and reggaeton and stuff. That's what's popping in California, you know.
Yes.
But man, yours is a little bit different, man. It has some cool beats to it. But
Yeah.
back to your show.
Cool. No, I'm pleased. I'm glad you like it. I downloaded a couple more songs after last time.
Nice.
Because I was like, yeah, man. And but yeah, you know, you guys, and then you can also on weeks when we're not here, Roselle has a show.
Yes.
With classics.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
it's getting bigger.
Yes, it is.
Yep. That's where we are when we're not here. And when we're not doing this or Duck Soup. So one of the reasons, Indonesia elections, it's now like more than 300 people because I guess they had to work through the night. And it's sweltering, and then the reason that there was so much to do is because they had they had the national and regional and local all on one day to save money. So that is crazy. I mean, it's kind of like if they did it here, you know, if they had like the primaries at the same time as the big elections, but even worse. So, man, rest in peace, all you people in Indonesia, man. Shit. If I was gonna die for democracy, I would want it to be for something like a little bit. I don't know, man. I would rather not have it be from overwork counting ballots. But hey, speaking of counting ballots, one of the things I work on here, or that I volunteer on here in Vallejo, is participatory budgeting. Oh man, I should have gotten you to do that. It's pretty cool. Vallejo has a certain percent of the city taxes go into a budget, which is where residents vote on different causes and things. And what's cool is like age 14 and up. So one of the things I do is go around and help publicize that. Not well enough because you didn't. There's booths everywhere for participatory budgeting. So, you know, so there's like 6 different. It's a whole year process because you have people suggest their causes, and then they get narrowed down, and then they get voted on. And this just reminded me because I actually said I'd go help count ballots. So, but yeah, this is a warning, man. I'm gonna be careful.
Just don't fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so here is, we were mentioning the elections in Nigeria, another place where those poll workers were getting shot. To my knowledge, they weren't dying of exhaustion, but I guess they were staying awake to try and like not get killed. But shit, man. Heroism, okay? And then again, I mean, I just want to say again, and I always feel bad if it sounds like I'm not taking it seriously enough. I mean, people that take their lives in their hands to get out and vote are just amazing. And we have that in our country, and people have done that here in the United States in the not distant past at all. And voting rights are still under threat. So, I mean, who knows what is going to be happening. I think I told you this fall, I'm going to go to Mississippi to do a civil rights tour.
You were going there with your brother, right?
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, it's kind of the version of going to the, it's kind of like it's one
Are you going to film it? Like
film it?
Documentary? No.
No, I'm not a filmmaker. I mean, there's.
I mean, not a big. I mean, not
I'll
like,
take some pictures and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I'll take some. I'll take some pictures.
You should definitely get videos and stuff, so that
I
way
will.
when we get all this together,
Oh, that's right.
you might have to go back, and show pictures and stuff of what you did.
Yeah, I will. But
I was telling Ace the same thing. Like when you're doing all your stuff, you should get pictures,
yeah,
videos, and then when we start doing our shows and
that's
you're,
true.
down the line, you may want to go back into something. You can say, "Oh, I have pictures of it." You can post it.
I'll get some, but I mean, what's with traveling and stuff like that? I mean, the pictures I like to get are like things of like people or things that are really specific because
Right.
I mean everything. People can just go look at all these sites online where I'll be going to.
Right.
I guess it's kind of like equivalent of going to see for some of these sites. It's like the equivalent of going to see like the concentration camps and stuff. There's the there's like lynching memorials and stuff like this. So I know, I mean, some of it's really going to be pretty intense. So, okay, so one of the things that has been happening in Nigeria is the brother of Prime Minister Buhari was kidnapped, and he's like a tribal chief. So I'm following that, and then some senior employees of the oil company Shell benefiting any Nigerians, and a very famous protester about environment and destroying the environment and destroying the environment and not benefiting any Nigerians. And so there was a very famous environmentalist called Ken Saro-Wiwa, and he was executed in 1995, along with 8 other people, and they were called the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People that were protesting for their rights. And a Dutch court has ruled that it has jurisdiction over Shell Oil, and it's going to be investigating them or bringing charges of them against the oil company of instigating a crackdown by the military. There were peaceful protesters in that area who were killed. So, I mean, it's kind of strange. I mean, why is this in a Dutch court? I mean, it should be in a Nigerian court, even though, I mean, in a, I mean, I don't think it should not be the assumption. Again, I mean, it's that in Nigeria, and they're the ones that try and destroy girls' education, and they've just really terrorized a lot of places. So yeah, hopefully something will hopefully it will help. And this just reminded me that that we need to get back to the election in Nigeria. Okay, so here's something kind of interesting. The Emperor of Japan abdicated. So did you see anything about that?
Nah.
Okay, so the Emperor of Japan, it's another place where is from a dynasty that has been on the throne for centuries, and it's another place where his post is symbolic. This emperor that just was named Naruhito, and then they're not allowed to abdicate, but he's like 85, and so he was trying to a motion needed to go through the parliament for him to abdicate, and he started it 2 years ago. I mean, poor guy. He was just during World War II, and at that time people thought that the emperor was a god. And then but then after World War II, part of the deal with the war ending, with Japan being defeated, was him like admitting he was human. So I know when I first heard about that, me and another friend of mine were like, man, that's a real sort of like demotion, career demotion. And so he spoke after Japan was defeated in the war. He spoke on the radio to announce the defeat, and it was the first time that anybody in Japan had ever heard the emperor speak.
Too imperial and too that it's to a point where no one can even. That's like bad.
It is bad. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You need to come back down now a little bit.
Yeah.
If your own people can't understand you. Well.
Yes. And so okay, so it was post World War II, and the U.S. is all over Japan, and they wanted to basically they kind of like it was said that the emperor had led some really brutal campaigns, and the United States supported his rule because they wanted to get an economic foothold in Japan and be able to have military bases there. So that's that was his deal. And so the Naruhito became emperor when he was pretty young, and he was a pacifist, and I guess because he had grown up, I mean, he had been a child during World War II and saw what happened to his country, and so he was very determined that something like that would never happen again. And so during his reign, he kind of he became a real person. He put a human face on the Japanese monarchy. He visited places all over the world, and he apologized to countries that and again I'm forgetting which exact countries it were. I think in the Philippines, and really just promoted peace. And when during the there were natural disasters in Japan, when there was a earthquake and tsunami, he and his wife, the Empress, went to visit people and talk to them in like normal Japanese. So people just really had a lot of respect and fondness for him, and he became a symbol for the country of peace and civility. And he said that the thing he's most proud of is that Japan has never went to war during his reign. So now there's a new emperor who is like in his 50s, or so I mean it's interesting so we'll see, and so it's said that he is going to be more like a normal person. Now he's like next removed from being a god.
So he's more like in tune with the people. So
yes.
To speak. Gotcha.
Yeah. The guy that just stepped down, the guy that's in his 80s, was more in tune with his people, and the guy that just took over, the one that's in his 50s, is more in tune with people. He's gone to college, mm-hmm. And so
that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think in certain ways, things need to change like that.
Well, yeah.
You need to put people in that are more people friendly, so to speak.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because it's a symbolic sort of position anyway.
You think North Korea will ever get like that?
God, I don't know. Well, North Korea doesn't have a monarchy.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily have a monarchy, but I don't know, man. From what I used to see as documentaries on it, everything is off of him.
They have a terrible human rights record.
Yeah, but you know like how they're there, and like from what I used to watch, they used to have a thing where like every couple of hours they had to all like.
Well, yeah, it's a terrible place.
It just don't seem like
people don't have any freedom, and they're oppressed, right. And yeah.
You don't think they'll ever get like a people-y type leader?
Not without somebody's going to need to overthrow King Jong-il, and since he's such great friends with our president, that's going to be tricky.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky.
So, that family has been, he is the third generation of his family to be ruling, and so, people can't do anything there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy there. I was watching some on that, I was like, heck no. Like every hour, like all the troops had to like stand up and do some kind of dance and salute them and stuff. Oh, heck no, that's just crazy. That's what Trump wants. Trump's wants
I know.
Like that. I'm like,
yeah.
Nah, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
Mm-mm.
He does.
Not a good thing.
Did you watch any of the Barr hearings?
No.
Yeah.
I've been kind of, you know what? To me, and I don't know if this is true, and people have been slacking down a little bit on the Trump stuff. Like I haven't been hearing as much stuff on it. Now I don't know if that's just the people I'm around, but I'm used to hearing something every day about Trump. But
well, yeah,
it's been kind of low. I haven't heard much on him anymore.
Yeah, well, the Attorney General has been in court. I called into Fox today to talk about Kamala Harris. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I said, okay. Well, I was like, okay. Well, Kamala. See, I actually just wanted to get on the air. I haven't even paid. I hadn't even been paying the closest attention. But I said, well, I said I was supporting Kamala Harris for president, and she crushed him. She's a prosecutor, so she just was asking him. She said to him, I love her voice, and she said, did anybody from the administration suggest that that you prosecute somebody or something like that? And the guy was saying, well, what's the meaning? Well, I'm trying to think what suggest mean. And then Kamala's like, infer, imply, and
it's funny how people get kind of stupid.
Yeah,
when they want to.
It sound pretty fucking stupid, but then, but Guy, that's the conservative on the show, I mean, he thought Kamala had did some, and he said that since Trump makes suggestions every day for on Twitter, that could have been what the guy was thinking about.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, he was supposed to, to me, it's like he was supposed to show up. He did not show up to testify today in Congress. And if you don't show up to testify, you look guilty.
Yeah.
Congress wants to talk to you. You should go.
But you know what? Trump is slick. He's kind of like one of them stupid street smart people. Like, he knows not to get questioned at certain points. I don't think he will let himself get questioned.
Well, his advisors won't let him get questioned.
Well, I mean, of course they're going to tell him, but I think he knows that. I think he kind of knows that too. I think he knows to a certain degree that if he gets questioned by certain people, he can slip up. So I think he won't get questioned by certain people. Like, you know what I'm saying? He tries to play it off. He'll talk to certain different, like, media people and, when they come and talk to him.
I don't know, man.
But I think he's slick. I think
he has no filter. I think
he has
no filter. He just pretty much says
mob
what he wants.
attitude in my mind. Like, he has like the mob. Like, not to say nothing. You just, hey, I'm not going to talk to this person because I don't want to say something that'll get me in trouble. So I'm not going to talk to that person.
Yeah.
But I'll talk to her because I know she can't really do nothing. So I'll just talk to her. And I won't talk to that guy. Or I won't go to that court hearing because I know if I go there and say the wrong thing, it might make me look bad. He's smart on that end.
Yeah.
And you're right, he has advisors too, so I'm sure he listens. But I'm pretty sure. I think Trump is smart enough to know when you grow up in like around what he's grown up around with richer people. I think he learned all that. I think he knows. He knows how to maneuver. I think he just knows how to do it.
I love watching Kamala. I love watching Kamala grill people, man.
Now, do you think honestly that Trump would talk to her if she like called him to want to kind of question him? Do you think he would do it?
Well, she has to do it. She can't just call him and talk to
him.
No.
I'm not saying. I know that. I know she can't just do it. But like, do you think if let's just say
if he was called to testify,
if he was called, like she said, okay, well, let me just question you, just to do it. I bet you he wouldn't do it. He just wouldn't do it because
he was called. Well, it all depends on if he's called to testify.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's called to testify, then he pretty much needs to.
Yeah, but I think he would get out of it. I think he would try to find a way to get out. I don't think he would talk to her.
I mean,
I think certain people he just will try to get away from talking to.
Yeah.
Because he can get caught up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're just trying. I mean, just the thing about Kamala. I mean, I just trust her. I mean, she's so smart, and I just trust her not to go out on a limb that she can't come back from.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I'm just hoping that she's like doing her own thing and like meeting voters on her own while the stupid ass media is like losing it over Buttigieg and even though man. Okay, so another issue that I am an archivist and I'm going to do a presentation at the library this summer, so that's going to be really cool.
The one up here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Going over the documents, photos of the documents from when I went to Bayard Rustin's archives. So it's just going to be really simple, in a way. I mean, so I'm going over it, and it's like putting together stuff for other people, like trying to explain, like, okay, well, this is what's interesting about this to me. Because a lot of stuff, I mean, it's not interesting unless you know what it is.
Right.
So I'm going to be doing that, and so I'm just working on it now, like building up the research and trying to, make it a story. Right. So that'll be interesting.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. But I have two things now about records and how important they are. Pope Francis has said that the Roman Catholic Church will open up its archives on Pope Pius XII, who was the Pope during World War II. And Pius, who was Pope from 1939 to 1958, has been accused of tolerating the rise of Nazi Germany and not doing enough to protect Jews during the Holocaust. And so, PF, Pope Francis, that's 16 million pages. So, I mean, it's an interesting issue that I really like to follow, and we've talked about how colonial archives, for example, are in the colonial countries and shouldn't be. I mean, people need to be able to get their own information. And so this will be important. This will be important for people that want to know what happened, that want to know why their relatives were taken away, and for people to try and hold the church accountable. And I mean, incidentally, there were quite a few members of the Catholic Church who were who resisted the Nazis, who hid people. So I certainly want to acknowledge them, but it's kind of known that Pope Pius was a Nazi collaborator. That's you know this stuff, but you need the evidence. And like the state of Israel is holding on to a bunch of archives that belong to Palestinian people, and the Palestinian people should be able to access those. Mm-hmm. And the people that hold the information have the power. I mean, information is power, and and this is getting to the next topic. I mean, people disappear. You don't know who's disappeared necessarily, right, without getting documentation of it. And that's like right now in the refugee camps in Libya. There's people there that that are Libyan, but that are also Eritrean and Sudanese that were trying to escape those areas, and there's no record of them. Nobody really even knows how many people there are there. I mean, how their names, and they can't claim, they want to claim asylum, but they can't do it without getting a name. So it's a really big issue. And so a very important issue which has a lot to do with documentation, is missing and murdered Indigenous women, and it's a hashtag that gets going sometimes called MMIW, and missing and murdered Indigenous women. Native American women face murder rates that are 10 times higher than the national average. And like, for example, I was reading about there's a place called the Red River in North Dakota. Like 7 bodies were pulled out of there in one year. So I originally watched a show about this, and what was said is when you talk to Native American families, a lot of people have recollections. There's people that are missing that they don't know what happened to them, but it wasn't recorded anywhere. And like it's been said, like every family that there's like missing people in every family.
Right.
And so they aren't, like, there's problems with how it can be difficult to get somebody listed as a missing person because adults are allowed to go missing. And so in some of these cases, there's been racism so far as cops. Did you see her? And I mean, it's not, you can't just go declare everybody missing either, but that is just a real and then there's a problem, I mean, in any communities that have bad experiences with police are even less likely to go list somebody as missing. So we just don't even know. And sometimes women are misidentified. Native Americans are put down as being Asian sometimes, so we don't know. So that's more information about Native American women that we need. So Senator Heidi Heitkamp, who was a Democrat from a red state who lost her seat in 2018, and she'd written legislation that would improve and increase access to data on Native American crime victims, establish police protocols, and require annual reports to Congress on the number of missing and slain Native American women. And then amendments were included to add women who aren't on reservations, because that's a whole nother problem too. A whole lot of, obviously, of Native Americans don't live on reservations.
Right.
So it's difficult to track them too. There's also, this particular section didn't even get into it, but there's tribal law, because the reservations, the tribes, they have a legal system. There's tribal law, there's tribal courts, there's tribal police forces. So that can be really, really problematic in different ways. That it can be a problem when, it's a problem with police officers everywhere in domestic violence cases. If a cop is abusive, that makes it a lot harder for their families to try and get help, and so that can happen in the cases of on the Native American cops, and then in a reservation, it's an even more small community, and so it's going to be even harder for people to get help if they're being abused by a cop. So you have those factors so far as people that are missing, and then you just have, I mean, all the issues of distrust that people have, that Native Americans are going to have, and the tribal cops are going to have that too. So that is a problem with recording all of that. So the latest report identified Seattle as the city with the highest number of cases, and Seattle is where I'm from. My dad worked with Native American communities there.
Does Seattle have a big Native American population there?
Yeah, and yeah. See, I mean, there's a lot of tribes in that area. It's okay. I was talking about this with Miriam, with a Native American woman here, because I mean, there's Native Americans everywhere.
Yeah, but I noticed like you go to certain places.
Yeah.
Like Reno.
Yeah.
Up there, it seems like there's more. I mean.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, me personally, living in the Bay Area, I didn't see a lot of Native American people.
Well, yeah, me neither. And I was never too sure why that was. Well, one of the reasons. Well, in Washington, some of it I just think has to do with how organized the tribes are. But yes, there's a real strong Native American communities in Washington State. So a bill was signed last week, by Jay Inslee. He's the Democratic governor, and he's another 2020 presidential candidate. So it's going to create 2 liaison positions within the Washington State Patrol, the state's whose job it is to build a relationship between governmental agencies and Native communities. And it also requires the State Patrol to develop a protocol for law enforcement's response to missing Indigenous persons. So that's Jay Inslee. He's a Democrat, but one of the things that was interesting was this has been a bipartisan issue. In the days, this past year, the Violence Against Women Act. I just feel like it's such a shitty name. I mean, doesn't it sound like, can it be like, it should be like it should be called like Against Violence Against Women's Act. I mean, because it just sounds. It was one of the things that my boy Joe Biden was instrumental. He was instrumental in setting it up, even though he has this little hair sniffing problem. And so Representative Debbie Haaland from New Mexico is Native American, and she was able to add language which would provide victim advocate services to urban Native Americans in the state court. So, I mean, because that's another thing. Okay, there's the Violence Against Women Act, and that's really important, but then you need to try and meet the needs of different communities. everybody and anybody, if you know, if if you have Native American friends and family members that you don't know where they are, I mean, look people up. I mean, people need to try. Let's try and look out for each other and get the information out there if somebody's missing. And yeah, I mean, these are a lot of people that are loved and important, and we need to find them.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, thank you very much to the people that are listening, and we'll be back shortly.